It's showtime.
Down to business. I got my wild cherry Diet Pepsi, and I got my blackjack gum here, and I got that feeling. Yeah, that familiar feeling that something rank is going down out there.
Gutter.
It's a nice spot.
Gutter.
Gutter. It's a nice spot. 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 Gutter, gutter, gutter.
Red skies tonight. Red skies tonight. Oh ho. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Red skies tonight. Red skies tonight. Oh ho. Whoa, oh, 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 oh.
And if you can't believe it, it's a Friday once again.
Good. You're not coming home. Where can I go then? You can go to the gutter where you belong, you filthy pig.
The stuff that dreams are made of. Huh?
The fluidity of time moves different from the perspective of violence, not in minutes or hours, but the elapsed time between explosions, choices, and missed opportunity. Civilization's leaders and the citizens that they represent assume that they are writing history, the greatest chutzpah of them all. But it's just proverbial rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, the ending already concluded, just waiting on the epilogue. Page by page, the remnants of the world that counted value and control, power, and possession, the seconds ironically ticking by on the doomsday clock until the inevitable end. The streets erupt in equal parts gunfire and laughter as fire rains down for a healthy harvest and fall of souls. This is the reset, the unwritten line, a new opportunity to choose and possibly fail again, a time for new beginnings. Welcome to Generation Zero. Here in the gutter, everyone ends up here eventually. It is only a matter of time. How you doing, JP?
Pretty good, man. How many post-apocalyptic gutter episodes have there been?
More than I can count.
Okay.
I like
mean,
this
it
one.
is the gutter.
I like this one a lot.
Mm.
Let's check in and see who's joining us today. We got Citizen Ronan saying, "Okay, I'm awake. Let's go." And Snuggy Jr.'s back. Let's join it. Let's fucking go. Hell yeah, man. Good to see you, man. Scrolling down, everybody's saying hi to each other. And what band is this? That is Red Skies at Night by none other than The Fix, indeed. And yeah, finally a good song. I'm Afraid of Americans by Bowie is a great tune, man. I used that last week. Come on. That's some not White Snake. Ronan, that joke never gets old. Oh man. Kayla has joined us. She's listening in as she drives. And JP said I need drugs for this. No, there's well, yes, no, yes. You always need drugs on this show. I think is a solid recommendation. Hojo's here, South River Studios. Great to see Hojo. He's getting ready to ship his Mythicals trade paperback. Make sure you go check that out. And what else we got? That's gonna do it. So let's jump right on in. So this tonight we will be talking about Generation Zero. Generation Zero was debuted in Epic Illustrated issue number 17 from April of 1983. There's 2 installments of it in this. What's that?
Great cover.
Yeah, no, man. This cover is this is Tim Conrad, who's always delivering. He's like Citizen Ronan in his ability to just deliver something as far as a painting goes that makes you think. But this had, like I said, 2 installments of Generation Zero in it. The first 2, one acts as more of a prologue for the story, and the other is kind of the introductory chapter, which is probably why they slammed them both together. It was primarily written, the story and the actual script are co-written, but all the dialogue is specifically written by Archie Goodwin. We've talked about Archie Goodwin before, legendary writer, editor, and artist, 1937 to 1998, lost way too soon at the age of 60, absolute legend of comicdom. He worked on this, his co-writer, and the primary artist was Pepe Moreno. Pepe's an interesting fella. He was born in 1954. He's currently 72. He is still living. And he's been active in comics, starting off in Spain since the early 1970s. His best-known mainstream work is probably, arguably, Batman, Digital Justice, which was a digital only from DC in April of 1990. He's worked in heavy metal. He's worked on Vampirella. He's done work for Marvel. He's done work for everybody. His fingers are in every pot. But he's worked also across all media platforms. If you are of a certain age and you're very familiar with interactive PC games from the early 90s after Myst came out, he was one of the key people involved in the development of Hellcab in 1993. And following that disaster, he formed his own independent interactive media company. He also worked in the 80s with Bob Camp as a concept artist on Thundercats and Silverhawks, and was the primary guy behind Tiger Sharks. This is a guy that he has some bona fides, but this is kind of what he's known for. The graphic novel itself, which I thought I pulled up a picture of. Apparently I did not. So let me pull that up right now. It was assembled after the complete run of all of the issues in 1991. Just a minute. My notes are a mess tonight. Yeah, here we go. It was assembled by DC Comics in 1991 as a complete graphic novel. It is slightly difficult to find. Here's what the cover looks like. It's slightly difficult to find, but if you dig a little bit, like you can hop on Amazon and buy it for $40. If you hop on eBay, you're going to be able to, you can buy it depending on the market at any given time, anywhere from like $10 to $50. So it's one of those books that you got to hit it at the right time when nobody's looking for it. But if you can, it's a fantastic collection. Or alternatively, you can buy all of the issues of Epic Illustrated that it showed up in, which I encourage you to do, because then not only do you get the complete story, but you get a whole bunch of other awesome shit. This appeared in 9 total installments from issues 17 through 24, from June 83 until June 84. Each issue is going to run you like 5 to 25 roughly in a decent reading condition. So yeah, it's more expensive, but then you get all the other material, and Epic Illustrateds are great. In fact, GP, we were talking in the pre-show that we're kind of thinking we might just stick with this issue of Epic Illustrated and talk about some of the other stories that are in it, because man, it's chock full of some good stuff.
Like Mime.
Yeah, like Mime. I like Mime. I like Mime a lot. I think Mime's great. But yeah, so jumping right in, we've got the first installment of Generation Zero is called The Chess Game. The second installment is called Phantom City, and each installment is prefaced by one of these individual kind of covers. Each installment ranges between 8 and 15 pages. The two we'll be looking at tonight are about 12 pages each. I think issue one's not issue one, but part one's 11, part two's 12. I think they're great. I like these little covers. What was your thought going in, just cold? Because you've never seen this before, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I struggled with this one just purely based on my own biases. It's not really my aesthetic. It's not really my writing style. It's not really my subgenre, with it being post-apocalyptic. I think greasers are hella gay, so I personally struggle with a lot of this.
Okay, then that's
Good
fair.
looking art, but yeah.
Now, I will say part one is definitely a prologue, and this is kind of going to be almost, it's a single episode talking about Generation Zero, but we have to bifurcate talking about the chess game versus Phantom City. The reason for that is there's a lot of interesting choices that are done in the chess game, both layout, structure, and format wise. Before we get into Phantom City, I'm also going to do something on Phantom City just as a test that you guys can, because I'm wondering if, as I describe a page, sometimes if people aren't getting what I'm saying. So we are going to get into that fee-fi relationship again right away on page one of the second part of this in Phantom City. So I did a little bit of a breakdown. It's really simplistic, but if it's something you like, I'll start doing this more. So let me know as we go through it, if you would be so kind to give me a little bit of feedback. But jumping right into part one, we immediately get this stark layout, almost that photorealism. It's borderline fumetti almost,
Yeah, I
with
was going to ask
colorized
about that.
pictures. But we get the narration of where we're at in the world, and resources are dwindling and hostilities are high. And we've got, obviously an oil tanker, we've got a tank, we've got, kids fighting, and then a map of the Suez, and then planes dropping bombs. And so all of our imagery, it's very chaotic in its format structure and heavy in the narration, but you're building up to it, and we're jumping across the page the way you'd expect to jump. But importantly, if you notice how they structured their narration, the narration is almost, it's like a combination. The art's almost that fumetti style, but going way, way back, it's almost picto-fiction, talking about when Warren Comics did their picto-fiction style, which was what we talked about in the third episode with our good friends Odin and Global Frequency. So we've got a little bit of multiple styles going on here, and they're playing with it heavy. And we go even harder in the second page, because now we're going to something you don't see in comics hardly at all, which is the 20 panel grid. And we're really heavy playing with tone and structure here. There's a lot of we're doing alternate pacing with black backgrounds and yellow backgrounds, and blank white narration. We're structuring things.
Chessboard, man. We're all just pawns,
Well,
man.
that's when, as you're reading down into it, you realize that it is a very heavy-handed metaphor, that the reason it's structured that way is it's the chessboard of the world stage, right? It's the world global game of Risk between two superpowers. And I don't know if this works.
I
like it, but do you think it works?
No, I know whether or not it works, and I don't think it works.
Okay. It seems it's just a little too heavy-handed. Just a little.
Isn't that one just kind of a riff on the painting of the World War I soldier?
Which one?
It would be column 2, 3 from the bottom, the soldiers' faces.
Oh yeah, it is kind of like that. That classic blank stare.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does kind of have that vibe to it, which might be what they're going for. That. But that's the difficulty when you go with this many images. It kind of just becomes a chaotic mess.
Yeah.
And there's no real structure to it.
Yeah, well, it's like you could probably trim this down to maybe like 4 images, but then you're losing your chessboard metaphor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so then we move on. We go to the next page, and now we're back to more of the standard grid. But even then, we're still following that heavy grid format, and we're alternating with narration and images, and we're still sticking with the solid palette style. And it just this drags just about 4 panels, or 4 pages longer than it needs to.
Yeah.
Because we're not even halfway through it yet. And that's why I'm saying this is all prologue. There's a much better way to do it, but because this is being done in a magazine, I think it works as a whole because we're doing something different. It's not truly in a floppy. So we're doing something creative. We're doing something kind of out of the box. I think it works as a one-off, and I'm really happy they don't return to this again in these 2 installments that we're looking at.
Yeah, this is the 80s, right?
Yes.
So when I was kind of slogging my way through this, what I couldn't get out of my head is the opening riff of Living Color's Cult of Personality. Be a perfect track to throw on for this.
It would be. That's a good call. I wish I would have. I already had the fix picked in just because I thought Red Skies at Night was fitting a little perfectly for this. But so then we continue to move in, and we continue to get that. We're playing very stylistically with colors, obviously. Again, our layouts are very structured. I like it. It's just, again, we're so far into this. I've already seen this. We're 5 pages in and repeating the same thing.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that Chaykin would do, but he wouldn't do this much.
Yeah.
And I think Moreno's leaning way too heavy into that style than he needs to. I think if you go back again, we're going to do a lot of callbacks here. If you go way back and you talk about like the Howard Chaykin, The Star's My Destination, as he's going through it, that's very dialogue heavy, but he's able to do unique things on the page that make your eye drawn across, like from every text block you might get. It's that the page comes across as dynamic. 5 pages into this is very static.
So the first couple pages, they did that. Like there was text on the left that leads you into the image, and then there's an image that leads you into the text on the right. But like here, almost everything on the page is going up, but you're not reading up.
Up, right. And I think that's the flaw of this is now, again, we're 5 pages in. We're well past the ability to, in this context of how they've chose to frame this prologue portion of the story, to have any kind of negligible order in the structure of the images, because you've got missiles going up. How do you structure that with your text? It doesn't
you put the text above the missiles and have the missiles pointing at the text.
But even then, how do you draw the eye across the page?
No idea.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like you've really kind of you've painted yourself into a corner with that structure. But then it doesn't end. We keep on going. And again, we're 6 pages into this. It was creative when it was like 2. 6 is a little heavy-handed. Not a big fan of that. So I think that could be cut down. But then we get into the story. Okay, and now I think we're moving. Now we're into what I like to see. And the remnant Earth has been destroyed. We've already established that with the nuclear holocaust here and the remnants of what happens. Now we've got the fragmentations of society, and they get a message, and they're trying to figure out, they got to send people out to find where this message was, because he was the person that brought them all together. And greetings, Belmont. Great to see you, brother. Good to see you. Saw Belmont will be offering a second chance of his Pencils Down book, so everybody pay attention for that one. But then, we get the leadership, the council of the survivors that has pulled themselves together. I like this. We're doing that, but clarification. We're doing that thing that we've talked about before, where we just do the shot of the faces as they're talking. We've established the shot of the table, but I hate this when we're just doing close-ups with dialogue. Like there needs to be a better way of laying this page out. You could still, the dialogue's not the problem. It's the art and just that middle row. Like, just doing face shots doesn't do anything because none of these characters matter in the grand scheme of things. This is all, again, prologue. These people don't really play a role. So associating a face with, and not that they give names, but even if they gave names, it doesn't matter because this is just prologue. It's exposition. So what you should do is rotate the camera from that outside the table shot and then just start rotating it around as people speak instead of doing, you could maybe do 2 headshots there, but I think it would be better to do like more of an outscape look and have a little bit of the whole table so you can get an idea of the scope of what's going on. Because otherwise, I think it becomes a little too intimate here.
See, I would scrap all of it because if I'm thinking about like the structure and pacing, you're going from a really long prologue to what is effectively a meeting, and so we're just getting dragged down. I want the last panel on this page to be the very first thing I see after I learn about the nuclear holocaust.
Okay, I can see that. To your
And
point
then
too,
work this meeting in somewhere else.
and ending the page on the introduction of our main character is a fail here.
Yeah.
Too, because we're setting the tone, and then we get our main character who's okay. He's a young kid. He's lackadaisical and he's lounging, but you just set a different tone, and ending on that doesn't entice me to turn the page.
Yeah.
And again, I get these are shorts, but they still need to follow some kind of rule of having an anticipation of turning that page, and that's not present here.
Yeah, to contrast it, think about the introduction to Bruce Willis's character in The Fifth Element. And how
He is a meat popsicle.
Yeah. But you don't hate him when you meet him. He's not unlikable. He's just a slacker.
Right. That's a good point. That is an excellent point. And so then we move into, now we're highlighting on our lead character, and now we get the chaos. And see, and this is the other thing that bothers me about this prologue. Citizen Ronan asks, what year is this? This is from April of 1983. It was drawn in 1981. The entire thing was completed before it was started to be published in Epic Illustrated. So Archie and Moreno had this completed. It was published. The first 2 installments were published in April of 83, and then the rest of everything was published in sequential issues until they completed the story. And then it took until 91 until because again, everything in Epic was creator owned. Epic Illustrated, everything that was submitted was creator owned. Some things were published by Marvel later as graphic novels, like Sherna She-Wolf by Claremont. This ended up going to DC and getting published by DC as a complete graphic novel. But yeah, so 81 to 84, I think, are the ranges that this was done in. And greetings to Student of God. And yeah, Shock the Monkey makes sense then. It's based on the time. Yes. So yeah, it came out in 83, but if the reference of Shock the Monkey it's time referenced for sure. But as you can see, if you're a reader of heavy metal of the late 70s and early 80s, if you're familiar with the bande dessinées, especially the bande dessinées that were being done by anybody from Spain or Italy at the time, this is the style that you're going to see. This is the European style. It's a busy background. Character in foreground when they're talking, character in background when it's just the narration layout. That's Mobius influence. That's Jodorowsky influence. That's what you're going to see from Airtight Garage to Meta Barons, all the big ones. It's that. So it's bleeding over into Moreno's work, which makes sense because he's a Spaniard. He's being exposed to all that, and it's flowing. Jason Sandberg has joined us. Always a pleasure to see Mr. Sandberg. Jupiter made it over 150 signups. Jupiter issue 2. So congratulations to Mr. Sandberg. But as we move through to the next page, we're getting again a little more personal. And JP, they're doing it again. We get these goddamn headshots with.
Well, the greater thing for me is this is the part where they do the thing that I think I hate more than anything else in writing, where the guy says, "You're my brother's son."
Right. Instead of just "Hey, I'm your," or just "Hey, uncle."
Yeah, and on the previous page, I wanna see like you were talking about, like the busy world. It looks cool. I want to see that more than I want to read all these words. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, and if you notice too, everything is very structured and constrained within the panel. We're not breaking out. We're
There's all
showing
kinds
this.
of geometry and
Yeah,
landscaping going on.
we're showing this big expansive world that exists, that's recovering from the Holocaust of nuclear, global thermonuclear war. But we're very constrained within the panel, and we've also clustered it. We're essentially doing a 16 by 16 grid with some really weird beat methodology, which I kind of like, because it's like doing an L-shaped panel like that in panel
Yeah.
2/3 is weird, but I like it because it's different.
Oh, there it is. Last panel. My brother's son, my own nephew. Like, come on.
Yeah. And no, and that's a good example of, that's the other thing. You really do a good job of bringing this up, of be less wordy when you don't need to be wordy. Like, just say, like, all that needs to do is he goes, "Hey, uncle,"
Yeah.
or "Hey, it's my uncle." Like, my brother's son is just like, why?
And that's really
Who
my central.
speaks like that?
Yeah, it's like my central frustration here is like, if you believe that brevity is the soul of wit, this book just throws that in the trash.
I agree partially. I like some of the I like, in this context, some of the narration with the with the dialogue, but it does get like instances like that. And I think if we really combed through it with like a nit comb, you're gonna find a shit ton more. And I'd probably agree with all of them. But as the whole, until you point them out, they don't really bother me, other than
Yeah.
that one. And I think the only reason that one bothers me is because you've pointed out it's being used before.
Mm.
But we're almost done with the first installment, and so he's setting them up. He calls his nephew in, and it's his nephew and two of his friends, and they're kind of the troublemakers. They're the youngsters. They're Generation Zero. They're the first generation since everything happened, and they need them they're going to send them out after some training to find
Oh,
everything.
I thought they were the sugar-free generation.
Yes,
You know,
they're the
like Coke
sugar-free
Zero.
generation. And so then it's the 80s, so of course we get a training montage page.
Mm.
But also on this page, we get, and this is why it's the prologue, which is a very late 70s, early 80s things to do, because the last thing that the character mentions is, no, we don't want to wait for Generation 1. We're Generation 0. And so they self-reference the title of the series in this, and then we go into the actual story.
Mm. So, like that scene where Voldemort says, "Harry, you are the Lord of the Rings." Director's cut.
There you go. Snuggie says, "Who speaks like that? Tolkien, you nerds." Yeah, well, this is Tolkien has a little bit of a different context and doesn't work in sequential. It's fiction versus, which arguably this story
Wait,
might work
this is
better
nonfiction?
in literary fiction, not comic fiction.
Okay, prose.
Right. Thank you for clarifying. And Citizen Ronan says, "You always fade out in a montage." So there you go. But they don't fade out. They just end there. And then we get the second installment of Generation Zero, Phantom City. And this is where the story actually, now you're going to actually like it. It gets good from here, in my opinion.
Mm.
And the first page is a great example of this. Now, we've shifted away from everything that was going on before, and now we've entered a new style. And the new style that we went in, and this is so incredibly cool because it ties in with everything that we talked about with Blade Runner. It ties in with everything we talked about Alien, and it goes all the way back to Outland with Steranko. Everybody's watching what's going on in the space, and they see Steranko continually using the 2/3, the fee-fi relationship between 1/3 and 2/3, in a page. There is no greater example of that in this book than this page, because, and this is where I'm asking you guys if you want to see more of this, and if this isn't enough, I can do more breaking down a page. There's 3 pages, obviously, but panel 1 and panel 2's relationship is a fee-fi relationship. 3 of panel 1 fit in panel 2. 3 of panel 1 and 2 fit in panel 3. So when I'm talking about a 1/3, 2/3, 3/3 relationship, this is the example of that. Panel 2 is 3 of 1. Panel 3 is 3 of 1 and 2. It's a 1/3, 2/3 relationship on the page, but it fits within the fee-fi relationship. When you see this, your eye has a natural, it's a natural affinity to the human brain if you follow this format. This is a perfect execution of that. I wish I would see more of this. What I don't understand is this was widely understood in the 70s, in the late 70s, up through even going back to maybe the 60s, arguably. But at least in the late 70s, through most of the 80s, and then the 90s happened, and it's like we forget about this. I don't see this at all. Yes, we have a text wall in panel 1, but it leads into the events of panels 2 and 3, and everything works. From the arm of the Statue of Liberty extending up to draw your eye immediately to the text, to the way that it carries down with the ship flowing across the page. It's perfect. It's a perfect execution of what we've been talking about.
Yeah, which makes it all the more, I guess, confusing.
Frustrating when you turn the page.
Well, no, I was going to say why we have 6 pages of prologue when you look at what happens when they let the story breathe a bit.
No, and that's my point. Is I think, and I don't have any problems going back to issue 1. I don't have any problems with this graphic style as an introduction, but to go on for 6 pages,
yeah,
like you could sum this up a whole lot faster and get me to this glorious shit. Because if you can deliver this, why are you giving me 6 pages of this?
Yeah, I mean, you could summarize it with one image of Earth and about a dozen mushroom clouds, and then just start the story there.
I think 2 pages of this format, because I do like this format when I'm not beaten down. 6 pages of this is beating the dead horse. But 2 or 3 pages of this work. I don't have a problem with it. I like the graphic layout, but keep it interesting. This is interesting. This is not. But when you
getting back to the fee-fi, can you manage to work in the Fibonacci sequence somewhere in here?
This is not I can. This is not a book where you see a Fibonacci. However, there is a Fibonacci in this magazine, in Mime. Mime has a Fibonacci page, and next week we can go over that. But it still follows the fee-fi relationship. It's just the Fibonacci sequence is internal to I think it's the second to last or the last panel in Mime. And it follows the fee-fi relationship, but it's building onto it by layering it within a Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah, I guess Liefeld wouldn't use the fee-fi.
No, because he'd have to draw feet. But then we move the story, and you again see again, this is what's wild about this. I'm going to go back again and talk about this. If you look at this, yes, we've got a heavy border pattern. We've got that heavy gutter of white, but everything is constrained within. Now, if we start looking at the pages, we're starting to breathe a little bit as we delve into this, because now panels 2 and 3, yes, they're separated by a gutter, but it's a continuation image. And so now you're doing something a little bit different. And then if you look, panel 3 extends down. And so panel 4 and 5 extend into panel 3. We're playing with structure and depth, something that wasn't done in part 1. The artistic expression, once we get into part 2, once we get into the Phantom City, Marino's really starting to spread his wings. And we're starting to see why he is who he is. And we're just starting to see all of the influences come in, which again makes part 1 so incredibly damning. The deeper you go into part 2 and you see some of this, it just pisses you off, because where the hell was this in part 1?
Yeah.
And again, to your point, we get and maybe not so much to your point, given the dialogue, but we're getting more expansive looks at the world, and the dialogue's just slightly more constrained. Not enough, I'm sure, in your mind. But well, taking a step back from all of that, what was your thoughts? Did you have a stark? Did you kind of hit a stark wall going from part one to part two at all?
Yeah, I mean, I found myself when I got to part two, like really struggling to. I found myself like just looking at pictures more and having to remind myself that I need to stop and read. Like, does that make sense? Like, I really just wanted to look at the images here.
No, I get that. I think that sums it up. And then again, you get more of the depth. We're showing the world, we're showing the people. The story's, I think, starting to move. It's a little bit of a slow burn when you get into part two. By about halfway through, I think they kind of get their legs and they're moving the story, but artistically, they're knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
And we're doing a good job as we move through. You get a good context of what's going on. It leans a little bit heavy more on dialogue to drive the story than sequential imaging, but it still really works. There's high art level here. The sequentials work.
Now, I don't know if I'm just completely thick, but I somehow glossed over what are those creatures there?
That's like the result of the nuclear war, kind of.
Okay.
It's
So
separated.
not
It's the
literal
Eloy
zombies?
Morlock played out really, really poorly.
Okay. Yeah, because
Which I think if
I
there's any
couldn't pin that
weakness,
down.
it's that of this. It's
Yeah.
they don't do a great job of explaining because so they're sending them out to try to find the father figure of the person that kind of united everybody in their world.
Mhm.
And they don't do a great job of delineating what the threat level is.
Yeah.
So
And,
you,
like,
you
establishing rules, right? Like, that's something you typically wanna do.
right, it's for all the criticism that the Stallone Judge Dredd film had, they do a really good job of establishing what happens when you leave Mega City 1
Yeah.
and what is in the wasteland. And even the Carl Urban Dredd film does a good job of establishing what happens when you walk into a place where, like peach trees, where the law operates but only to a certain level, and then violence must be done to keep justice and order present. Here we don't really ever have that. There's no point where they give a good delineation line between that chaos and order, and I think that is a little bit of a failing. But I think this is a little bit of a higher level story, and it's not an excuse. I think it's just a different tact, and I don't think it works as well.
Okay. Can you talk? Because now that I don't know why I didn't pick up on this before, but the L shape, the Tetris block, is that I feel like I haven't seen that in a lot of places.
This is the only thing we've ever looked at in the gutter that has it. I like it earlier where it's unique. Now that we've
Yeah.
used it 3-4 times, I don't like it.
Yeah. And, like, what do you even call that ratio there? It looks like, it's divided into, like, 45-55.
Well, yeah, so the even the bigger problem is so we've got panel 1 up on top, and then we go down to panel 2 and row 2. And then we hit panel 3, which is our L block Tetris thing. Now, where the question is, where do I jump? Do I go to panel
Yeah.
4? Is it the inset panel? Or do I jump all the way back to column 1 and then go across the page? And that's the problem with the shape. It works when I'm doing something graphically, it doesn't work when I'm doing something sequentially.
Casually.
Right. And so I think it's interesting when I did it earlier or when it was done earlier, but here I don't think it works in a sequential format.
Mm.
Which is weird because then we go to a page like this, which executes well. We're breaking gutter lines with dialogue. We've isolated heavy dialogue where we're up in that upper right hand corner where I've got a lot of dialogue. We're stacking. So it's dialogue that's coming off of panel 1, a narration block, and then I'm moving down. And the L block is clear on which direction I move.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, so this is a
Yeah,
solid
yeah.
execution of that. And then you move down the page and across, and there's no question. But this is a solid. This versus this are confusing. So I
Yeah.
share your concerns. I'm not sure what they were trying to do. This would be one of those things where you'd have to reach out to the artist and go, why did you do this?
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I've learned in talking to artists, it's their answer is probably going to be, I don't know, it looked cool.
Also in panel 1, it looks like that guy's hat is a cupcake.
Yeah, he's wearing the beret with the, I don't know, what do you call the ball on the top of the beret, but
Cherry.
it does, yeah, it does kind of look like a cherry. So we go to this.
That's good analysis I bring.
We go to that. And then we go to this. And this is, again, we talk about meter and form and beats and measures. Great example on this page. We're starting off, it's a 16 grid format, but we're playing with a 16 grid because it's not really we're measuring it out like it's a 16 grid, but only for the first row. After that, I'm treating it like it's a 12 panel. And so this is beat and measures. And again, we're playing with 1/3, 2/3. Only now we've inverted it and we're doing 2/3, 1/3. And again, you can see that play of how the order works. And there's a reason why things like this work. And again, it's that fee-fi relationship. But here it's based on individual row lines, not page lines, which is it's an interesting application. I can't say I've seen this too much other than in European stuff. So this is Moreno really bringing across those, early concepts of how they were playing with sequential storytelling over in Europe to America, which is relatively new. You're not going to find too much stuff like this where he's playing with it where people are playing with it in this fashion, other than maybe guys that are a little unhinged like Chaikin. But he's going to be playing with it in a different format where Moreno's using rectangles and squares. Chaikin's probably going to be using spheres and circles.
Are you bothered by the empty space at all?
To end the page?
No, at the top of the page.
Not so much. I have a bigger issue with the end of the page because I don't think that's a page turning moment. I want to see the page turning moment end on an action beat.
Yeah, even if you just invert those two images.
Yep, I think if you flip the bottom, I think it works a little bit better.
Yeah,
because then you go into this, and then we're playing with that again. It's that L shape, which in this format I don't think works. And again, we've now constrained ourselves because now we're again using just white gutters, which we've consistently used, but we're using them and they kind of constrain us because we go across and we go panels 1, 2, 3, and then where do I go?
Yeah, this really reminds me of that. You remember that arcade game with Aerosmith where you're shooting CDs at people?
I do not remember that at all.
No, yeah, this kind of reminds me of that.
But we do start to redeem ourselves as we get to the end of the second installment, because now we go back to what I would call a standard page of meter of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and we follow it pretty beat by beat. But we're heavy narration. And so my question for you, JP, as a writer, this deep into a story where dialogue has been driving it to this point, do you feel like I don't have a problem so much with that secondary panel where we do and again, this is being executed well to our earlier discussion around the conference table. We're localized in our view, but then we pan out. But when we pan out, we get narration, which I don't have a problem with.
No.
And then we go into individual shots with more narration. I think that's a fail. I don't have a problem with the pan out to the city with the explosion of the narration. I have a problem with when we go back to the personal view and the POV, we have more narration. I think those should be driven by dialogue, not narration.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you opened with narration, I don't feel like it should. I feel like bookending it makes it feel, what's the word? Like I would say I would call it trusting the artist. Let your story and your artist speak for itself.
Well, and I think in this, I think you could probably take arguably, and I think everybody would have a different tact on it. depending on their take of the dialogue and the story up to this point, I think you could take 2 panels out of this
Mm.
and let the art breathe a little bit more. Like you're talking about, that L-shaped panel. I think if you take the second panel down from the primary and that personal shot, I think you can take that out and make that a little bit more of an expanse and maybe make
Yeah.
that even a sweeping, full page and then do some insets. And I think it would be more successful.
Yeah, I think you could also make an L shape out of panel the Wablom and that face and just make it one image that includes both of them.
No, and that would work too. My only question there would be how would you condense the dialogue, because you're shifting a little bit in perspective there. But I think that could be done if you maybe turn some of the dialogue into or some of the narration into dialogue. I'm sorry, I think I just inverted 2 things there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's a little bit of a miss. I think they're just going a little too traditional here, and they're rushing. And I think if anything, these last few
Are
pages
they
of the
rushing or are they dragging?
I think they're rushing.
I'm supposed to throw something at you.
Nice Whiplash reference.
Yeah.
But then we go into this, and now we're even busier, and we're showing more chaos. I don't have a problem with that in the context of the story, but this is a little too dialogue heavy for me.
Yeah.
With where we're at in the story, because we've established a pace of where we're building to. We're reaching the end, but
Yeah.
now we're dragging.
Yes, it should be easing into close.
Yep, and we're or building into an event.
Yes.
Either easing or building, but here we're dragging. And I think by dragging it down, you're dragging the pace down. You've lost all anticipation that you built with an action moment previously. The story is still engaging, but it's not as engaging as it could be.
Yep.
And so then we go into this, and now here, home run.
Yeah.
And I don't need, again, I can start, I'm happy to start breaking things down, because I would love to break this down in the same fashion that I broke down page 1. Again, if I can go back up to that, just to explain it a little bit. Again, panel 1 goes into panel 2 3 times. Panels 1 and 2 go into panels 3 3 times. So that's the phi relationship. That's the golden ratio. If you go down into this, the golden ratio is present, but it's inverted. We're going from a full image out towards your eye to nothingness. That's why it's bathed in white at the bottom. This works with one minor exception. The 3-panel overlay should be off shifted slightly to the right, in my opinion, so that the flow works just a little bit better. The ship then points, and everything would work if those were just shifted. Otherwise, I mean, it's still a great page, but if you're going to do that relationship, I think you need to follow the spiral. Any thoughts on that? Or?
I think what I'd like to see here is sorry, I'm trying to find it. I think I would like to see, I like the image of the rose falling, but it feels like the momentum is going the wrong way.
Well, they're building to the quote unquote end, and I don't think it's a good ending either, because that is the end. I'm sorry, that is the end of this installment. But I think if you're gonna, to your point, you could invert it the other way and put the 3 insets up on top, and then just have the ship at the bottom, which ends maybe on a little bit better of a note, because then you're carrying the story forward. This feels like a chapter end, I think, a little bit more than it needs to, but this is a periodical.
Yeah.
So you want the story to end. And one of the things I constantly talk about is, and this is a damned if you do, damned if you don't moment.
Yeah.
I know there's a 3rd installment, so I want it to end on a note where, okay, man, that's introspective, and I'm going to think about it until the next installment. But at the same time, I want every issue to be a closed loop with an opportunity for an off ramp where I can continue the story, right? So does this offer that, or is this in the middle ground, is my question to you.
I don't know. I kind of didn't exactly understand what you said.
Okay, so we're reading an installment of a story in a magazine.
Yeah.
Do we hold a 12-page second chapter of a story to the same level that we would hold a floppy?
Hmm.
Or is this a more of like a Dickinsonian, we're going to release one chapter every week, and the standard rules of a novella don't apply because it's an ongoing series?
I don't know because I think you have read way more of these than I have. So does
I'm
each
torn.
one?
I can go either
Yeah.
way on this.
Yeah.
I like this as an ending much more than I've liked a lot of other pages in this. I think the second installment starts really strong. I really, really like this page. And I
Hmm.
really, really like this page. I'm
I'll tell you.
very
Sorry,
mediocre,
it just
everything in
came to me
between.
what I would want to see here. I want the image at the top to include the rose falling. I want the first image at the bottom to just be a shot of the flower on the ground. I want the second image to be that person picking it up, and then I want the third one to be backed up further away, um, with the ship in the background and the character holding the rose and watching the ship fly away.
I really like that. I think that
Yeah,
does work better. Because then you have the introspection of what that I think is what they're reaching for. But at the same time, you get the open ended that there can be another installment, but there doesn't have to be.
mm,
This story is done. You know what I mean? I think
yeah,
that works better. But at the same time, there's a certain je ne sais quoi to opening with an open-ended spiral and closing with a closed spiral. You know what I mean?
sure.
So I think it works both ways. It just depends on how you look at it. It's one of those you know, it's the mall rats, it's a dolphin if you just squint.
Mm.
What was your overall take of this? You said this is kind of something that's not. I know this isn't in your wheelhouse, but
Yeah, it's just not my aesthetic. But I mean, as far as like, would I recommend this, like this entire issue for all that's in there? Sure.
well, I
And
think
plus,
here's
the art here is great. It's just we
no,
have issues.
no, the even the art in Generation Zero, as much as we criticized, this is what I love. I love art like this that's good at that you've got a pro that's doing it and you know why. And I love looking at art like this and going, man, I know this guy knows what he's doing. And I can read the story and the story's comprehensible and it's good. And I want to analyze
Which
it
is
because
better
I
than
want to know what
most.
he's thinking. That's great. Like I hate the books that we look at. And it seems to happen a lot in indie where it's just, you're looking at shit and it's like, man, I've seen this all before. There's nothing
Mm.
fresh. There's nothing new. This has some fresh ideas. It's new. Is it using things that are like the fee-fi relationship and, the 1/3, 2/3? Absolutely. But it's using them in unique, interesting ways. And when you see a page like this, man, like you gotta, that's a great page. It's just true art. And I want more of this. I want more of things that are going to push that envelope and structure it so that we can question it and we can talk about it. And it begs it. Something like this begs to be discussed. And I
Yeah.
think that's why this is such an absolute win. I encourage everybody to check this out. The story is really good. It drags a little bit, but it is good compared to most things from this era. But I do like the idea of sticking with this magazine and maybe looking at some of the other shorts in here next week. Maybe you pitch one, I pitch one. Mine's going to be Mime. I love Mime. I think Mime's absolutely brilliant. It's one of those rare, short. I think it's only 7 pages. It's got no dialogue, but it's absolutely brilliant. And like I said, it has both a fee-fi and it's got a Fibonacci in it.
Mm. Well, I mean, the rest of it isn't that long, so we could probably just go through the whole thing. I feel
Yeah,
like I feel like Generation Zero was like half of this book.
it is. It's probably
So
a
we would just be
third. I
doing
think
the
there's
other half mostly.
yeah. I think there's 2/3 of the book left, but I think we'll do that next week. I think we'll finish out the rest of Epic Illustrated issue 17 from April of '83 next week.
All right.
I will be dropping the link in the chat if you want to join us in the back room. Otherwise, thanks for joining us, and have a great night. You got any last words, JP?
No, just I'll send you over some prog metal for the intro for next week.
Well, there you go. I like it.
Space themed.
Woohoo! Take it easy, y'all. Catch you next. If I don't catch you Wednesday, see you next Wednesday. See you next week.
This is blood for blood and by the gallons. This is the old days, man, the bad days, the all or nothing days. They're back. There's no choices left.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.